So picture this. You're walking into a retail store in New York, right? And you buy a pair of sneakers.
Okay.
The exact moment your credit card is swiped, a digital signal has to travel to, say, a warehouse in Germany to update the inventory.
Right.
And then another signal goes to a manufacturing plant in Vietnam to adjust their supply orders. And, yet another one updates a financial ledger to calculate the exact tax liability for that specific quarter.
It's an insane amount of data moving instantly.
Exactly. And most people never really think about the invisible nervous system routing all of those signals. But if you actually look under the hood of the global economy, you'll find that for, I think it's 87% of global commerce, that nervous system is entirely powered by one single company.
Yeah, SAP.
SAP. I mean, if you buy a coffee or you fly on a commercial plane or get gas, their software probably processed some part of that transaction.
It's an almost incomprehensible scale, honestly. When a company touches 87% of global trade, I mean, they are no longer just selling a software product. They are essentially the digital floorboards that the modern enterprise stands on.
Right. Which brings us to the core mystery of today's deep dive. We are looking at a comprehensive investment analysis of SAP's Q1 2026 earnings, which were just reported today, April 23rd, 2026.
Fresh off the press.
Exactly. And there is this massive paradox that we need to figure out for you, because they just posted blockbuster numbers. They are aggressively rolling out AI across the board.
Yeah.
And yet, Wall Street is absolutely punishing them.
Oh, yeah. Dropping their stock by 33%.
33%. So today, our mission is to figure out why the ultimate backbone of the global economy is, well, frankly, terrified of an AI SaaS apocalypse, and what that actually means for anyone trying to understand where the tech world is heading.
The disconnect here is, well, it's severe, between their underlying business performance and the market's reaction, I mean. Because if we just look at the raw financial metrics they reported this quarter, any traditional tech company would be doing a victory lap right now.
For sure. Let's unpack those numbers.
So their cloud revenue is up 27% in constant currency.
And just real quick, we should probably clarify constant currency for a second, because SAP is a European company dealing in global markets, right?
Right.
So that metric just strips out the wild swings in foreign exchange rates, so we can see the actual organic growth of the business itself.
Exactly. It's a cleaner look at how they're doing. And stripping out those currency fluctuations, they reached nearly 6 billion euros in cloud revenue just in Q1.
Wow.
Yeah. Their core product, the Cloud ERP Suite, which is that central nervous system we were just talking about, that's up 30%. And perhaps the most critical metric is their current cloud backlog, which is sitting at 21.9 billion euros.
21.9 billion. And just to put that in perspective, that backlog is essentially a giant reservoir of future money.
Basically, yeah.
It represents revenue that they have legally contracted with customers for the next 12 months, but they just haven't recognized it on the balance sheet yet.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed cash waiting in the wings.
Right. And on top of that, their profit margins are expanding. They're currently sitting at 30%. They've nearly doubled their operating profit over the last 5 years.
That's huge for a company of that size.
It really is.
Yeah.
They are even in the middle of a massive 10 billion euro share repurchase program, buying back their own stock.
But the stock plummeted anyway.
Yeah.
It dropped from a late 2025 peak of $244 down to $163.
Just fell off a cliff.
Right. They are currently trading at a price-to-earnings ratio of 21x. And, for context, if you want to buy stock in a competitor, like, say, ServiceNow, you are paying $51 for every dollar of their earnings. But for SAP, you're only paying 21. Wall Street is treating the company that basically runs the global economy like a dinosaur. So what is the market seeing that those blockbuster numbers are hiding?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the market is pricing into existential threats that just don't show up in a quarterly revenue spreadsheet.
Okay, what are they?
The first is a geopolitical risk, and the second is a technological one. Let's look at the geopolitical side first, specifically the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. SAP's CFO described the situation as a slippery slope.
Wait, I need to challenge that a bit.
Sure.
SAP makes enterprise software. They aren't physically putting containers on cargo ships.
Right.
If a shipping lane in the Middle East closes, a European retail chain still needs SAP software to tell them they are out of inventory. So why does a geopolitical conflict hit a software stock so hard?
Because massive software deployments require corporate confidence. When you install an SAP Enterprise Resource Planning System, an ERP, you are making a multi-year, multi-million-dollar commitment.
Like a massive overhaul of your business.
Exactly. So if the Strait of Hormuz closes and physical supply chains freeze up, global corporations instantly go into survival mode. They hoard cash. They freeze their IT budgets.
That makes sense.
The CFO noted that while Q1 revenue is mostly fine, their pipeline of future deals and bookings started taking sudden hits in mid-March.
So it's a binary risk. It's not a slow decline. It's literally a switch flipping. If global trade stops, nobody is signing a $50 million contract for new accounting software.
Precisely.
And as impartial reviewers of this financial data, we should probably note that SAP's internal financial guidance for the rest of the year assumes a near-term de-escalation of that conflict. If that doesn't happen, their math just falls apart.
Yeah, and Wall Street hates unquantifiable variables, and a potential global supply chain freeze is about as unquantifiable as it gets.
Definitely.
But that macro risk is really only half the story. The other pressure driving the stock down is this massive narrative shift in the tech sector regarding artificial intelligence. Industry insiders are calling it the SaaS apocalypse.
The SaaS apocalypse, which sounds incredibly dramatic.
It does.
But if the geopolitical risk is unquantifiable, this AI risk seems almost, well, existential for them. Because the concept of the SaaS apocalypse is the idea that traditional software as a service companies are going to be completely wiped out by AI agents. For the last 20 years, the business model has been seat-based licenses, right?
Exactly.
A company buys 10,000 human user licenses for their accountants and their supply chain managers to physically log in to a software platform.
Right, and the fear is that autonomous AI agents powered by large language models will just displace all those humans.
Wow.
Think about it. If you have an AI agent that can do the data entry, route the supply orders, and generate the financial reports, you don't need 10,000 human licenses anymore.
You maybe need like 500.
Exactly. Under that scenario, the traditional enterprise software revenue model basically collapses.
But see, the hype around AI completely replacing corporate workforces right now feels entirely disconnected from reality.
Totally agree.
I mean, we've all used modern AI tools. They're brilliant, but they are kind of like a brilliant but overconfident intern, right?
That is a perfect analogy.
They frequently hallucinate entirely fake information. You wouldn't hand a generative AI tool the keys to a global payroll system completely unsupervised, would you?
Definitely not.
Because a single hallucination in a tax compliance ledger could cost a corporation hundreds of millions of dollars in fines.
And the margin for error in enterprise software is zero, period.
Right.
And what's interesting is SAP's CEO, Christian Klein, addressed this head-on during the earnings call with some surprising bluntness.
What did he say?
He stated that current AI agents are about 85 to 90% accurate. And he literally asked the analysts on the call, is this enough when you are touching payroll, finance, supply chains? No, it's not enough.
Wow. Okay. So the entire AI enterprise race essentially comes down to bridging that 10 to 15% accuracy gap.
Yes.
If you can get an AI from 90% to 100% accuracy, you basically win the corporate world.
And SAP argues they have the only real mechanism to bridge that gap. The missing ingredient isn't a smarter algorithm from some startup in Silicon Valley. The missing ingredient is domain knowledge. Over the last 50 years, SAP has encoded the business logic of the global economy into their systems. They have 7.3 million distinct data fields and over 120 formalized business processes.
Wait, 7.3 million data fields?
Yeah.
So we aren't just talking about basic spreadsheets with names and addresses. We are talking about hyper-specific variables.
Exactly.
Like the exact temperature a highly volatile chemical needs to be stored at in a Munich warehouse, or the specific labor laws for warehouse workers in Brazil.
Things standard AI models scraping the internet just do not have.
Because it's totally proprietary.
Right. And to utilize that data, SAP is building out ontologies and knowledge graphs.
Okay, we should definitely break those terms down because they sound incredibly dense.
Please do.
An ontology is basically a rigid digital map of how the real world works. So if an AI agent hallucinates and tries to route a shipment of chemicals from a warehouse to a port that physically doesn't exist, the knowledge graph acts as a boundary. It slaps AI's wrist and says, no, That connection violates the physical rules of this company's supply chain.
Yeah.
It forces the AI to remain 100% accurate.
And that proprietary map is SAP's ultimate moat against the SaaS apocalypse.
That makes a ton of sense.
Furthermore, less than 60% of SAP's cloud revenue is actually tied to those traditional human seat-based licenses anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are rapidly shifting their customers to consumption-based models.
Meaning they don't charge you based on how many employees log in. They charge you based on how much data and computing power your company consumes.
Exactly.
So if AI agents do the work faster and generate more transactions, SAP still gets paid for the volume.
Right, so they are far more insulated from AI replacing human workers than Wall Street realizes.
Okay, so that's the defensive side.
But SAP isn't just trying to sell AI as a defensive shield to their customers. The financial analysis in our sources points out a major pivot.
Okay.
SAP is aggressively deploying AI internally right now to fundamentally rewrite their own corporate profitability.
Yes, the internal metrics they released are just staggering. They are seeing a 30% uplift in developer productivity by using tools like Claude Code and GitHub Copilot.
30% is huge.
And think about how they handle customer issues. 100% of their customer support tickets are now assisted by AI.
100%.
Yeah. And 20% of those are resolved fully autonomously. No human involved at all.
That's wild.
Plus, they have this massive army of over 80,000 consultants who help corporations set up their software. Those consultants are now saving a full day of work every single week.
Right, because when a consultant is building a custom integration, say, linking a client's legacy HR database to SAP's cloud, they used to spend hours manually typing out the code to make those two systems talk to each other.
Right.
Now they can literally describe the integration they need in plain English, and the AI generates the code instantly.
Which leads to perhaps the wildest quote from the entire earnings call. SAP CFO Dominic Hassam actually referred to the 28% drop in their stock price during Q1 as an unintended relief.
I saw that. It is incredibly rare for a financial executive to find a silver lining in a stock crash.
Right. But the irony is that the stock drop actually improved SAP's bottom line for the quarter.
How so?
Because the stock price fell, the company owed significantly less money for their employee share-based compensation plans. The market panicked, dropped the stock, and accidentally saved SAP 135 million euros in compensation expenses.
That is a brilliant bit of financial irony. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the broader story is how this massive internal AI adoption is driving real structural savings.
Right.
SAP has targeted 2 billion euros in efficiency savings by 2028. And they have implemented a hard cap on their operational expenses.
What's the cap?
They dictated that total operating expenses can only grow at 80 to 90% of their revenue growth.
Okay, so they are baking structural leverage into the company.
Exactly.
For every new dollar in revenue they bring in, it costs them less and less to generate it because AI is suppressing the human labor costs required to scale.
That structural leverage explains another metric that would normally terrify investors. SAP's services revenue actually declined by 1% this quarter.
And historically, a drop in services revenue means fewer clients are signing up for software implementations, right?
Yes. But in this context, it is actually a positive indicator.
Because services revenue, which is billing clients for human consulting hours, is historically a low-margin business for software companies.
Right.
The software licenses are the high-margin part. So because those 80,000 consultants are using AI tools to speed up the implementation process, it takes fewer billable hours to get a customer up and running.
Exactly. They are actively sacrificing low-margin human service revenue to accelerate the adoption of their highly profitable cloud software.
So they are cutting internal costs drastically, but you can't simply cut your way to long-term growth.
No, you have to secure future top-line revenue. And SAP's strategy to guarantee that future revenue is what industry watchers are calling the 2030 Master Plan.
The 2030 Master Plan. Because looking at the earnings, traditional legacy software licenses fell by 33%.
Right.
On paper, a third of your legacy business vanishing looks like a catastrophe. But it's entirely deliberate, isn't it? SAP is actively cannibalizing its own on-premise business.
Yeah, and to understand this, we have to distinguish between on-premise and cloud software.
Okay.
On-premise means the corporate customer is running SAP software on physical servers in their own basement. Cloud means they are running it on SAP's modern centralized servers. SAP wants everyone in the cloud, so they set an extended maintenance deadline for the end of 2030.
So they drew a line in the sand. They're telling these massive global corporations, look, after 2030, we will no longer support or update the software running on your basement servers.
Right. It forces a structural multi-year migration.
And you might wonder why these massive corporations don't just take this opportunity to leave SAP and switch to a competitor.
Exactly. Why not just jump ship?
Because ripping out an SAP ERP system isn't like switching from Gmail to Outlook. It is a terrifying, multi-hundred-million-dollar surgical procedure.
Yeah, that software is doing everything.
It calculates taxes across 190 different countries. It runs warehouse logistics. It issues payroll. If you pull the plug and the new system fails, your entire supply chain halts and your stock plummets.
Customers are trapped by the sheer complexity of their own businesses.
Exactly. So when the 2030 deadline forces them to upgrade, they take the safest route. They just migrate to SAP's cloud.
The lock-in is profound.
Yeah.
However, this is where we find the root of Wall Street's impatience.
Okay.
Because if this forced migration is a master plan and the lock-in is really that deep, the financial payoff should be explosive.
Right.
But SAP expects total revenue growth to stay relatively flat well into 2026. The acceleration has been delayed.
So that is the ultimate red flag for an investor. If the plan is so brilliant, where is the money right now?
Well, the surge of revenue is locked inside that 21.9 billion euro backlog we discussed earlier.
Right.
But the massive increments won't fully hit the balance sheet until 2027. They have a gap to fill in 2026. The macro risks in the Middle East might slow new deals, and their services revenue is shrinking faster than expected because, like we said, AI is speeding up implementation.
So they need a bridge to get them to 2027.
Exactly. Which brings us to the Reltio acquisition. SAP is in the process of acquiring a company called Reltio, which brings in about $185 million in annual recurring revenue.
That highly predictable subscription money that Wall Street absolutely loves.
Exactly. But they didn't just buy Reltio for the cash flow. Reltio specializes in master data management. Think of Reltio as a massive industrial water filter for corporate data.
That perfectly explains it.
Yeah.
SAP knows a flood of massive legacy customers is migrating to the cloud in 2027. But if the data those customers bring with them is messy, duplicated, or just unstructured, SAP's new AI agents won't be able to process it accurately.
Exactly.
So Reltio acts as the filter, ensuring the data is clean and organized before it ever enters the SAP ecosystem. They're securing the plumbing now so the AI actually works when the floodgates open.
That's exactly it. So, bringing all of this together, SAP finds itself in a highly unusual position for a mega-cap tech company. Despite the fears surrounding geopolitics and the SaaS apocalypse, the underlying financial engine is incredibly robust.
Right. Let's summarize the definitive takeaway for you listening. At a 21x price-to-earnings ratio, SAP represents a genuine value play in a tech sector that is generally wildly overpriced.
For sure.
This is a company generating 10 billion euros in annual free cash flow. And they generated that even after having to pay out a 408 million euro litigation settlement to a company called Teradata.
Yeah, that's wild. They absorbed a nearly $500 million legal hit, didn't blink, and still have 10 billion euros in cash just sitting on the balance sheet.
It's unbelievable.
And looking ahead, the major catalyst to watch is the Sapphire event in Orlando this coming May. SAP is preparing to announce fundamental changes to their agentic AI portfolio there.
Okay, so that's the big event.
Right. If they can definitively prove to the market that their ontologies have bridged that gap from 90% to 100% accuracy, the narrative driving that 33% stock discount could just evaporate overnight.
The geopolitical risks are real, obviously, but SAP's status as the institutional brain of the corporate world makes it one of the most defensible businesses on Earth, which leaves us with a final, lingering thought.
Oh, I like these.
Something for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends. We talked extensively about SAP using its 7.3 million data fields and rigid ontologies to achieve 100% AI accuracy.
Right. The holy grail of enterprise software.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if they actually pull it off, if the AI agents can autonomously route global supply chains, execute complex quarterly financial closes, and resolve human resource issues without a single hallucination, what happens to the traditional corporate management structure?
That is the big question.
If the software requires no human input to run the business, We're no longer just looking at a cloud migration. We might be watching the quiet birth of the fully autonomous, self-running corporation.
Wow.
Suddenly, middle management seems like an endangered species. Something to think about next time you buy a cup of coffee and an invisible system updates a ledger halfway across the world.